Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we are going to talk about three things, really. One is news, it's foreign policy related and deals with friends and all of that stuff. The second thing is how some people could have known this news weeks ago. And then the third thing is me asking y'all to do something that I never ask y'all to do. Okay, so let's get to the news. There was a summit, a conference. The OIC, which is the Organization for Islamic Cooperation, they met. And if you're not familiar with it, it's basically representatives from the Islamic world. And while they were there, Iran, they made their pitch. They were like, hey, we need to help. We need to help. They suggested arming Palestinian forces and suggested cutting ties, diplomatic ties, with Israel. There were some other suggestions that were made, but those were the two big ones. That would be a pretty big escalation. The OIC basically told them to kick rocks. They're like, no, we're not doing that. The Saudi Arabian government, they expressed a lot of anger at the U.S. because they feel the United States has not been able to get Israel to restrain itself. And at the same time, they did point out that Biden's trying, but Netanyahu is ignoring Biden. Just as an aside, my understanding is that the Biden administration is, let's just say, getting frustrated with that dynamic. So, at the end, what happened? They put out a statement. They condemned what was going on, said there was a need for more humanitarian efforts, and they wanted the UN to get involved. Basically, the statement. Okay. So, that's the news. Now, from a foreign policy perspective, two things about this news. One, this is pretty good news. This, again, another thing that lessens the risk of the conflict expanding into something that could spiral out of control. Again, I know people are looking at what's happening and they're like, this is out of control. That could be happening in a dozen cities. So from that side, it's good news. The other thing to note is that from a foreign policy perspective, kind of predictable. That brings us to our second thing. On October 26th, over on the other channel, The Roads with Bo, I put out that video. It's called The Roads to Foreign Policy Dynamics. Me standing in front of a whiteboard is the thumbnail. That video explains the dynamics. It's not specific to any particular conflict, but the dynamics are similar in a whole bunch of conflicts all over the world. And I got pushback on a couple of things about it. People didn't like what was said. One of the things that was said was that Red's allies, and if you were to transfer it to the current Middle Eastern conflict, Red would be the Palestinian forces. Red's allies don't actually want them to win. They want them to fight, not win. Sometimes they offer support, but sometimes that's just words. Got a lot of pushback, a lot of angry messages about that. That's what just happened. The dynamic is the same all around the world. When it comes to the the Gulf states. The world has changed. It's not 1967 anymore. Foreign policy is not about the statements and the things that people think it's about. It's about power and power coupons, money. The world has changed. It's even less likely that they get involved directly now than it was back then. The one country that is steadfast in its support, there's two unique things about it. One is that it's a country that, when it comes to foreign policy, it's kind of frozen in the past because it's been isolated, which is why it's important to bring Iran out. And the other thing is, it's further away. If it was to escalate, it's probably not their cities. Maybe. When it comes to foreign policy, there are no good guys. It's all about power. And the people who think they are the focus, generally speaking, the pawn doesn't know it's a pawn. Okay, so the thing that I never ask y'all to do, I'm going to start putting more videos that are like that whiteboard one up on the second channel, related to foreign policy, explaining the dynamics, not about anything specific, but about how it works. So you can know today's news on October 26th, because history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And when you get to foreign policy, every country on the planet, they all have their own individual, national anthems, but they're all singing the same tune. It's about power. So there's going to be more videos put up, just going over the dynamics, and we'll probably use more fictitious regions. If you are interested in foreign policy, go subscribe. Something I don't really ever ask y'all to do. But if that is something that you're interested in, there's going to be a bunch of them that go up that showcase how it happens. Now, in that video, there was one other thing that people were unhappy about it being verbalized, but it's true. And just like this, it'll be shown to be true, because it's always true. It's actually integral to the strategy that's being deployed. It has to be true. And eventually there will be evidence of it. So the important news here is that the Gulf states, they don't seem to want an escalation. And now they have kind of pushed off Iran, who was asking for one. That's good news. The other side to that is that Iran, while it doesn't have control of a lot of the organizations that they get called proxies in Western media, they don't have control over them, but they have a whole lot of influence, a whole lot. And if they are upset by the way they were kind of ignored, they may influence them to take a more active role. So let's all hope that the Saudis were diplomatic. That's not anyway. So that's a rough update on the foreign policy aspects of what's going on over there. The other thing to note is that it does appear the Biden administration is getting up. I don't know if upset's the right word. Frustrated with Israel's actions and their unwillingness to take advice. How that translates into U.S. foreign policy moves, that's anybody's guess. But we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.